rent prices continue to rise across America, and medical debt may not show up on your credit reports anymore. So in today's episode, I want to cover two big growing stories that nobody is talking about, because this is news that should be important to you because it probably affects you. As Americans continue to struggle with overwhelming debt and a huge lack of wage increases, rent prices continue to climb, and people wanted to blame it all on inflation, but it didn't make any sense to me how this was all caused by inflation. I want you to tell me in the comments, do you think this is inflation, or is it our favorite, corporate greed? And if you answered corporate greed, you may be onto something, because the FBI just raided one of the largest rental management companies in the United States called Cortland Management.
The action is part of a criminal antitrust investigation by the Department of Justice into allegations Cortland has been involved in a conspiracy to artificially inflate apartment rents. So why does this raid on this massive rental management company even matter? Because this is a part of a huge investigation into RealPage. So RealPage is a software company that recommends rent prices to landlords. The scheme allegedly works by encouraging landlords to adopt RealPage's price recommendations, which they do 80 to 90% of the time. And why does this software RealPage even matter to this whole big picture? Because over 6 million rental units across the United States use RealPage's algorithm to decide their rental increases, how they're actually controlling their vacancies, and what is allegedly driving up the cost in rental properties across the United States. So can it be possible that one company is to blame for soaring rental prices in the United States? Even crazier part about this story, RealPage's effects can be seen most notably in Atlanta. Well, we all know the majority of the scams come out of Atlanta, where the software-based pricing affects more than 80% of rentals. Since 2016, rents in the city have grown by 80%, and the higher vacancy rates have not driven down the price either. Now, of course, a lot of people don't even understand or know that there are active lawsuits against RealPage all across the United States, because would it be shocker that the people that are actually getting the rental increases are just now finding out about this years after it's been going on? So the problem with RealPage is, according to multiple lawsuits filed in the past 2 years in California, Arizona, New York, and in other states, is that its algorithm increases rental prices in response to data collected from landlords, not according to demand. So the Arizona State Attorney General Chris May said landlords were not competing at all. They were colluding with one another. Now, they're saying colluding, but honestly, do landlords really know what's going on in their specific other areas when they're not communicating with those people, or are they communicating with them? Because remember, this is all alleged. Are they all communicating using the same software and gathering all this data to show that, guess what? We could just jack the rent up and nobody's gonna notice or say anything to us. They just have to pay us, right? Now, according to an Arizona lawsuit and others filed in other states, the landlords gave RealPage detailed information about rent prices, lease terms, amenities, move-out dates, and occupancy rates. Now, using this sensitive data, RealPage directed the competitors on which units to rent, when to rent them, and what price. May says this was not a fair market at work, this was a fixed market. Now, these lawsuits are specific to those states that I covered, but it's important to understand that RealPage's reach is massive because this is a billion-dollar business. Now, RealPage is being used by over 16 million rental units across the United States, used RealPage's algorithm as of 2020. That was 4 years ago. I'm willing to bet that that number has doubled because all of this corporate greed, and everyone's gonna find out and everyone's gonna start using it. But I have a huge question for the Department of Justice. Can they really make a huge impact here and lower the rent across the United States for millions of Americans that are clearly overpaying for rent for no apparent reason except for corporate greed? Or is this just another far reach from the Biden administration trying to act like they're doing something for Americans right before election time? Last part's the most important. But also tell me in the comments, do you think that the owners of this software should be put in prison for allegedly scamming millions of Americans and hiking up rent for no apparent reason? Before we get into this next story, I want to give a special shout out to all my beasters out there that are using Dispute Beast to help fix their credit. If you're someone that's suffering from a low credit score or having issues with your credit, you can use Dispute Beast, the most advanced AI credit repair software ever created to help fix your credit. Link is going to be in the video description for anyone that may need it. Moving on to other huge news in America that you need to know about, the US proposes banning medical debt from credit reports. Now, a lot of Americans are confused. Does medical debt truly report to your credit reports if you don't pay it? Yes, it actually does. But here's the big but. The Biden administration has been working on this for the last 4 years, or maybe like 2 years, maybe 3 years, and they were actually able to get any actual medical debt that is reporting on your credit report that is less than $600 to be deleted. And also, if there is any other medical debt that is paid on your credit report because you paid a collection company, any paid medical collection cannot report on your credit report per the changes that were already in place that the Biden administration pushed for with the help of the CFPB. But now, as we're getting closer to election time, the CFPB is pushing even harder to get all of medical debt, point blank period, removed from credit reports. They want the entire category to go kaput, to not even show up on a credit report.
New regulation would ban unpaid medical bills from most Americans' credit reports and could boost the typical borrower's credit score by 20 points.
Because if you think about it, does medical debt really make a huge determination, or it's a real predictive factor to tell you that someone's not going to pay their bills? You don't know if you're going to get sick. You don't know if you have to have surgery. Why is that even on your credit report? Because a credit report is supposed to tell any type of lender whether you are a responsible borrower or a risky borrower. So what does medical debt have to do with that? You didn't intentionally go into the hospital sick. It's just life happened. But of course, there's a big but. This is a billion-dollar industry. The Biden administration, again, is not planning properly and thinks that they're going to be able to wipe debt off of people's credit reports permanently, even if it's just medical debt. You think that lobbyists and all these massive medical companies are not going to fight against this? Just like when they tried to remove late fees from credit cards. Guess what? That's now in the court systems and it's going to be held up for years. We'll probably never see the light of day. But again, here we are. We're trying to convince Americans that we're going to do more for them. But I will say this, they did get a lot of medical debt already removed from credit reports. So there is a huge possibility here. But the US government is up against a billion-dollar machine. And that machine is not going to give up any of that medical debt so easily. Because Republicans and the lobbyists are going to say, oh, you know, if we do this, then it's going to incentivize Americans not to pay their medical bills. It's going to incentivize them not to pay hospital bills. No, man, you need to figure out a better healthcare system. That's what we are supposed to be, one of the #1 countries for everything. But guess what? We have one of the worst healthcare systems in the world. And the majority of medical debt isn't even billed properly. You can literally reduce a bill that is $20,000 all the way down to a couple $1,000s. That makes no sense because, of course, there's no real regulation in this because guess what? Lobbyists and other people are making money off of medical debt. The Biden administration has about 4 to maybe 5 months to make this happen before election time. Because if this doesn't get passed, Republicans, if they get nominated into office, guess what? They're just gonna throw it in the trash and say, you know what? Guess what? Everyone's gotta pay for this medical debt. You made it happen, you gotta pay for it, put it on the credit report. And don't come into the comments thinking that I'm siding with one, because I don't believe in any of these politicians. They're all dirty scumbags at the end of the day. Whether they're red, blue, yellow, whatever color political side, they all don't care about Americans at the end of the day. But I will remind you, Biden administration did completely try to eradicate student loan debt. Over $430 billion in student loan debt was going to be canceled, and then it got stopped by the Supreme Court. And of course, all the politicians were like, why are we canceling student loan debt? If you took it out, you should pay it. Man, what damn 18-year-old and 19-year-old knows what the hell they're getting themselves into when they sign on the dotted line for that student loan debt? No, nobody knows what they want to do.
These kids have no idea what credit is. But instead, what are we doing in our system? We're teaching our kids that you have to go to school, you gotta go to college to be successful. Guess what? Success is not measured with a college degree anymore. But yet, millions of Americans are still suffering with student loan debt. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you back on the channel on Monday. And make sure that you watch that next video right there, because it is about another story that you may want to hear about if you are a contracted worker in the United States. Now, if you feel that I brought you some value in this video, make sure that you don't forget and subscribe to increase your credit score.